Hey there YouTube, this is WakeAngel2001, and it's time for another Sonic Boom vlog. This one is Knuck Knuck Who's There, and it's a Knuckles-centered episode. Quite possibly one of the weirdest episodes in the series so far. It starts normally enough with an epic battle between Dr. Eggman's army and the Sonic's group. So they're smashing up robots, they're using all their various techniques, and they even use the Enter Beam to do that throwing your ally attack from the game, Rise of Lyric, when Knuckles gets thrown headfirst into a rock and loses his memory. They actively point out the gag for the hacky comedies using the old bump your head, get amnesia skit. So they take him to familiar surroundings and try to get him to, to jog his memory by doing familiar stuff. So they have him lift weights, and though he can easily lift weights, he doesn't actually remember anything just yet. Although they do fill in a bit of Knuckles' backstory. For example, in the Boom continuity, he actually is still the last of his kind, and he is from Angel Island. They mentioned he was on Angel Island a while ago, but this is super confirmation. No mention of whether he's the guardian of anything, although I guess he isn't the guardian of anything because I've never seen him guard anything in this series. So Styx just tries yelling at him really loud, which makes him throw the cinder block weights he had up in the air and it hits him on the head again. Styx thought that you gotta scare the amnesia out, but Amy pointed out that that's how you cure hiccups. Anyway, as all hacky comedies go, a second bump to the noggin restored Knuckles' memory. Nice to see that they nipped that in the bud. I mean, they could easily have dragged it out for the entire length of the episode and made it cliche, but nope. They acknowledge that it's a stupid cliche, and then they just move along. So the rest of the episode focuses on the fact that Knuckles is feeling a bit depressed that he's the last of his kind. It's kind of heavy. Like the head trauma finally got him thinking about that. I guess he's always just been too stupid to really think about the implications of being the last of his kind. I mean, if I was the last human on Earth, I would feel really depressed. I would talk amongst the sentient squirrel people that had evolved in their place, and I would lament the fact that I was by myself in this world. Moving on before anyone gets to think about sentient squirrel people too much. So Knuckles starts going door to door to see if there's anybody who would adopt him. Seriously. We start with that old lady who takes him in as a houseboy. And she doesn't want him to sit in the furniture because it's for guests only. You know, that kind of people. She takes him to the early bird special, and but she's generally mean and antisocial, and she doesn't really want Knuckles communicating with the old riffraff. So she says, "If you're gonna be like this, then I'll just get myself another houseboy." So she walks off as she hooks Dave the intern with her cane and starts dragging him away. Like, "Can we at least stop by my mom's house first for my retainer?" So we kind of get a pseudo montage as Knuckles starts going around to other families. He tries to move in with the Golgobas, but it turns out that he wouldn't fit in with the Golgobas because they're like guilt mongerers, and the fact that he's a genuinely helpful and enthusiastic person leaves them feeling that he wouldn't fit in. Although they do make him release a big boulder that was blocking their well water, because, "Oh sure, let's leave, forget about the well water, we'll just starve, we'll just die of thirst." And he's like, "Fine, I'll take the rock off before I go." So he moves around like with Lady Walrus, but she doesn't want a son, she wants a daughter. So he pretends to be a girl, but he's not feminine enough to be a girl. He tries to be feminine by complimenting a girl on her shoes that he doesn't really like, but it's not good enough, so they reject. So without a family again, he gets taken in by what's his name? That guy from season 1 that was an archaeologist that Knuckles got fired and he stole the ancient mech suit. That guy. He and his wife take Knuckles in. and he spends apparently 22 hours with them, and they're hoping that even though Knuckles is his arch enemy, they're hoping that by taking Knuckles in at this vulnerable time, they can convert him to the dark side. And what better revenge than to turn him to the side of evil? So we have a montage done in sepia tones and with a film reel thing going on to make it feel real old timey. And Knuckles feels genuine acceptance with this new family. They barbecue, they spend time together. And the time comes when they launch an attack on the village. And of course Sonic and Amy are trying to fight. Sonic, Amy, Tails, Sticks, they're all fighting them. But Knuckles is fighting alongside, and he's punching at everybody, and everybody's barely able to dodge him. And and it's actually a pretty interesting fight. It gets to the point where Sonic is about to attack the mech suit thing when Knuckles gets in front to block, and Sonic veers to the side, saying that he's not going to fight Knuckles. Realizing that they won't fight Knuckles, they start using him as a human shield, crouching behind him and shooting blasters. Knuckles says that it's a good thing that he's developed such a close and intimate relationship over the past day and a half, or else he might be questioning their motivations. So eventually, things get a little bit too complicated, and Knuckles doesn't want to think too hard, so he just rejects. He rejects the whole thing, and he apologizes to Mech Suit like, oh, you take them in, you try and raise them, and then try teaching the difference between right and wrong, and then they disappoint you by choosing right. And so they leave, and Knuckles decides that his friends are his family, and he's gonna be happy with them. And then the old monkey guy's like, oh, I wish somebody would come in and ask me to raise them. I would take them in, and we'd live happily as a family. Oh, but when does that ever happen? And yeah, that's basically it. This episode was so weird. First of all, it kind of acknowledges the fact that Knuckles is basically an orphan. I mean, within context of the proper universe, Knuckles has apparently been orphaned for long enough that he actually has no memory of his family. Which is really sad, but also kind of begs the question, how the hell did he survive long enough to, you know, learn his destiny to be the guardian of the Master Emerald and all that stuff? Like how is he not a feral wild child like Sticks, you know? I mean, the comic book actually did a completely different thing about Knuckles. Like, for example, they had the fact that he actually lived with his father long enough to learn his destiny as a guardian, and then his father went away and left Knuckles by himself, and that's when Knuckles started to think he was the last of the Echidnas. But but you know, like, and then later on it turns out that there's like the whole Guardian Corps of all Knuckles' ancestors that were still alive, and then the city of Echidniopolis still existed, which had a gigantic population of Echidnas. Then you had the Dark Legion, which was an offshoot of the Echidna family that were trapped in a different zone. Then you had the Lost Tribe that was wandering down under, which Robbo the Hedge helped lead to Albion. And all of that was basically the creator of Ken Penders. I know a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about Ken Penders, but, you know, fleshing out the backstory of Knuckles and explaining a lot of stuff about him was really, like, the one thing that he sort of did right. That was the one thing that didn't need to be retconned or anything. Fleshing out Knuckles' backstory and expanding the Echidna lore. That's basically what made Ken Penders sue for copyright infringement when he lost custody of the comic characters, because he basically wanted to continue the story of the Echidna characters he created under his own terms. But that being said, all that is comic book continuity. It has nothing to do with the game continuity, and it certainly has nothing to do with this Boom continuity. So with Boom lore finally kind of fleshing out a little bit more of Knuckles' backstory, that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I mean, we're acknowledging Knuckles being an orphan, and well, like I said, there's some emotional character development here, but in the end, the status quo does kind of reset as Knuckles just decides that he's happy with his friends. Although, I would like to see this fleshed out in the future. Like, maybe we find out, what happened to the other echidnas in this continuity. That has to be a thing, right? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's not much else to say about this episode, so I guess we'll just leave it at that. We'll see you next week for the next Sonic Boom vlog.